Let's start this thing, fool. Hello, I'm Sam.
And I'm Amelia.
Welcome back to Ask the Duo podcast where we aim to build better mindset for better relationships.
And speaking of relationships, we actually have a relationship topic today because we haven't done one in a while, actually.
Yes, it's actually been some time since we've spoken about that, but it's off the back of some recent discussion with some guests that we've had in the past about, have you ever lost a friend after they get into a relationship?
Yeah, and I feel like it's actually quite a common thing. Like, it happens, and we just wanted to see your thoughts, and I'll talk about my thoughts on this because I would say that how I used to see this and my thoughts of it now has definitely changed.
I think that definitely the mindset when it comes to this topic or this question specifically, it's changed a little bit, but definitely in the past, maybe not.
So we'll start with you. Have you ever lost a friend due to them getting into a relationship?
Yeah, 100%. Definitely have lost mates or just friends because they've just, jumped into a relationship or a long-term relationship and miraculously just ended that, or just never ended up talking to them or figuring out how, what, where, or why.
So did they just randomly just disappear, like off the charts kind of thing?
Yeah. I've had friends where, we were close, like really close, and they've got a girlfriend or whatever it is, and they've just fucking disappeared.
Did you ever try to reach out to them? Were you like, hey, what's happening?
Nah.
Or where'd you go? So he's like, yeah, whatever.
Well, yeah, look, it's probably amongst the discussion within that circle of friends, but I never really asked them specifically, hey, why the fuck did you stop being?
No, but it's more like reaching out, be like, hey, where'd you go? Or like, what have you been doing?
Yeah, I mean, in my earlier days, definitely not. Definitely something I was just like, yeah, whatever. You've chosen the chick over us. That's cool. You do what you need to do.
So were these friends like good friends, or were they just like people that you hung out with? Because I know from your background, just to give the listeners a little context, you actually hung out with a massive group of people. So like you just had a lot of friends. So were these people like a close group of friends that you lost that friend, or?
No, I'd say combination. There were a few guys that I was actually quite close with, where I would hang out with them regularly. We talk about certain things in life and that sort of stuff. But on the flip side, there are friends where it's like acquaintances or I just know them kind of thing. So definitely two sides of the story there. How about yourself?
I don't know. To be honest, I don't feel like I've actually lost. I don't feel like I've lost friends due to them getting into relationships. I think for me, I'm not a person that, like, it sounds like I don't care about friendship or something, but I really don't. Like, I do care about friendships and I do treasure my friendships. But I think I'm more easygoing in terms of if they're in my life at that point in time, then, like, I'm happy to include them. I'm always going to hang out with them. But, friendships, just like everything, they come and go. So I feel like if they do kind of have more time with their significant other, or they're spending time because they got into a relationship, I kind of let that be too. But I don't necessarily feel like I've lost a friend.
Yeah, that's fair. And I think it's always a never ending circle of, like, I mean, not circle, but a cycle of questions when it comes to losing a friend, because I guess it depends on the person you are yourself. Because some people value friendship a lot more than some others. Some people can be by themselves and be alone and be okay with, without seeing anyone. Whereas there are people like myself in my earlier days, I always had to be around people.
But it wasn't that like I needed to be around people, I don't need to be around people. It's just I think I'm quite natural in a way where this is just nature taking its course, and that's what happens. And then as long as we're still chatting, like that's all my what's it called? My values in terms of friendship thing is, as long as we can still catch up and feel like it was just like yesterday, that's all I care about. It doesn't matter if it's been like a year, 2 years, 5 years, 2 weeks, 2 days, whatever. It doesn't matter. But like I can get the concept into why it may matter to some people, especially if it's like a best friend sort of situation. Which leads into this other question I wanted to ask you is you specifically, or just in general, why do you think it matters to people or even yourself? Like, why do they care or feel like they're a bit offended or feel like the friend just forgot about you?
Good question. I think it matters depending on the actual person itself, right? So if they are a close friend, it would matter more than say an acquaintance, right? And that relationship is not as close as opposed to someone who you regularly see, you hang out, you either do it's further than that. You guys share each other's problems, you talk to each other about this and that. It's like I guess from a guy's point of view, it's like your brother, your brotherhood kind of thing, like your homie, you know what I mean? Like someone that you kind of just you're always there to talk and help each other relieve some stress when it comes to issues and whatnot.
Mm.
So when someone like that disappears or just ends up sort of being like ghosted or they ghost you, it's kind of like, well, hang on, where's the bro code, man?
Yeah, I can definitely say that I feel like there's differences if it's a best friend and they've disappeared, like completely off the charts, kind of disappeared, doesn't hang out with you, doesn't talk to you, doesn't even catch up with you anymore, then I can see why it matters because you have essentially leaned on your best friend for so long to either talk about your problems or like hang out and just have fun and connecting with each other. And they have essentially just picked up and left for someone that they've either just met or got into a relationship for. So I can see why that does matter
Yeah.
because you're like, hey, we've had what 5, 10 years of friendship, or even like we're childhood friends or something like that, and now they have forgotten about you because they've met someone else. It's kind of like, where's the loyalty? I guess.
Yeah. So then for you, because I guess your friendship group is a little bit different to mine. So because I know you said, yeah, you can see how it applies to like a best friend, but if that actually happened to you or if you had that experience in the past, did you feel that same way?
Yeah. Well, I've never actually had that personal experience where that someone's picked up and left and just went for a relationship. So I can't speak from my personal experience, but I feel like if it did happen to me, part of it is still like it depends on what you've done after they picked up and left. Part of it is on you as well. If it's, I'm talking about best friends position, you still have the capability to reach out and be like, hey, where'd you go? Or like, what's happening? Can you keep me updated? I haven't seen you in a while. Just wanted to see if you're okay. Things like that. Like you reaching out is also just as important.
Yeah, fair.
I feel like when you get into a relationship, and this is why I feel like I can see both sides, like the person who's gotten into a relationship and also the friend who just lost a best friend. When you get into a relationship, there's that honeymoon phase for a reason. You actually are just really in love with the person that you've just met. And it could be like there's nothing wrong, like that person, the guy or girl who they've just got into isn't intentionally trying to take your friend away. It's just that they're both just really into each other. And there is a honeymoon phase. So like I can see that point of view. So if you as a person who lost a friend and you actually manage to reach out, maybe you can reel them back and be like, you've kind of left me in the dark. Like I just want to see how you're going. Like even though you've gotten into a relationship, I still like to be able to catch up with you because built such a great friendship. And I think you also have a say in that.
So do you think that if something happened to you back then as opposed to now, do you think your mindset is different and how you would handle it?
Yeah, because the difference now, I would say, is back then I would definitely be like, okay, this person is not loyal. This person does not give a shit about me, whatever. But now the difference as a part of the maturity that I've learnt over time is seeing that side of people getting into relationships and honeymoon phase. So back then I'd be like, no, this person just completely forgot about me. Like we've been best friends for so long, like so rude. Why'd you leave me? Kind of thing. Whereas now it's just being able to see their story as well. And it's not the fact that they purposely picked up and left. They could just really be in a honeymoon phase and did forget about you, but you have that chance to be like, hey, remember, I'm still here for you.
Yeah, I think for me, when I was younger and in the early, let's say, teens, even to the early 20s, when that used to happen to me, yeah, I was always like, what the fuck is going on? This motherfucker just left me.
But you just said at the start that
At the same, yeah, but I would think that, but at the same time, it's kind of like, oh, okay, whatever, because I had such a big group of friends that one person left. Okay, well, he's doing his thing, whatever. But at the same time, like, well, why the fuck would you do that? But I'll be distracted by my other friends, that I'll just be like, yeah, okay, cool. What?
Yeah, that's also like the nature taking its course kind of thing. Like one friend kind of means that you've got other friends that you can kind of build connections with too.
Yeah, and that like when I think about it, I can definitely see back then I had that sort of around me in terms of the friendship group. It was always so big, I guess, from my experience. But even if I were to look at it from now's point of view, my group of friends are small, it's tiny now. But yeah, it's a little bit different in terms of the mindset and how the maturity plays.
Do you say that your mindset and how you see this situation has changed now?
Of course, and I think seeing your friends not really move on, but build a relationship where it's serious, where they're getting engaged, they're getting married, some of them having kids, etc., etc. That's just, like you said, a natural progression in life. That's their journey that they're taking on.
Yeah.
Right?
So say this close group of friends that you have now, one of them, like for example, I'm not saying this actually happened. If one of them now got into a new relationship and then disappeared, what would you do?
Well, now because now I value friendships a lot more than what it used to be, because my friendship group is very tight niche. And like my friendship group, it's very much like we're brothers. We talk about shit. We laugh and cry and talk whatever. That's what our group is about. So if one of my brothers fucking just got into something and then fucked off, I'd be upset. Because because I value my friendship so much, that it's such a small, tight knit group. It's like, well, hang on, dude, don't you value the relationship? Don't you value the friendship?
So do you think that you'd put that expectation on them too, that they would choose the same value towards you?
Look, yes and no. I understand that they are themselves, like their individual characteristics is them, right? But I would at least expect that somewhat loyalty or respect from them. And even if they were to pick up and do whatever they need to do, at least let me know. Like if they just fucking went out in the dark, I'd be like, what the fuck is going on, bruv? Like at least let me know. Just talk to me.
Would you actually ask them though? Would you confront them?
100%. Now I would 100% talk to them, like, what's going on, man? What's going on?
So if they replied and they're like, hey, I just met this person and I just really want to try and get to know her, are you okay and be like, just do you kind of thing?
Yeah, but like, yeah, do what you need to do, but just don't forget us, man.
And what if they didn't reply?
Then I'd be like, fucking, what the fuck is this shit? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I guess from my point of view, it's like the friendship, the loyalty, and the respect is such a big thing that I have, that I put on my group of friends. And we have that same level of, I guess, expectations too. Yeah. So if one person would forget that and just completely disappear, it's kind of like, well, bruv, like, what's going on?
Yeah. And at this point in time, it's kind of like if they don't treasure your time and your company as well, and as we kind of grow up and mature and stuff, we have less time too. So you kind of don't really have that much time to keep trying to get them to respect you or like value you.
Of course, but and as we get older, friendships, we value friendships more and more because, like you said, we have less time to waste. We have our own journey in our life. We have our own work that we need to deal with. We have our families that we're trying to build and continue to bring that legacy on. But at the same time,
legacy.
Yeah, because you have a family, that's your legacy, man. You if you have kids, etc., that's your legacy. You're building that whole building block into your future and whatever
foundation.
Your foundation, whatever. But to you need to still realize what you had before that too.
Yeah.
You still need friendships and people that you can hang out externally from just your family too.
Yeah.
You know what I
Because,
mean?
like, it's kind of like putting all your eggs in one basket, and then if you've lost that,
Well, I mean, and that's nothing bad to put everything in like all your eggs in one basket, but you need to have you need to have that separation too.
I don't know if that's a need. I think that's a very individual, personal choice, but it's just also just knowing, because you've had this friendship for so long, and then now you're putting all your eggs in one basket, and this basket you've only just acquired like what, a month ago or like 6 months ago, and you've only known them for I don't know how long. Whereas your friends, your group of friends, you've known them for so many years, and now you're throwing all that away just to like this new shiny basket. And then what if you lost it? Where do you go now?
Yeah, and that's ultimately the end question, right? It's like, well, okay, I get the fact that you're trying to have this relationship, which we're all for it, but you need to realize that if that doesn't go ahead or if that goes south, what are you going to do?
And then leading question from that though, do you see a difference, or are you more forgiving between someone who, say, this is their first relationship and they are very into that honeymoon period and they disappeared, as opposed to someone who does this all the time, like every time they get into a relationship they just disappear?
Yeah, I think that's, to me, I think it's about understanding that person and understanding their characteristics. Because if it's your first relationship, generally first relationships is more applicable to someone that's younger. You like, for me, in my example, it's like early 20s. Your first relationship, it's your first everything.
Well, not necessarily. There's people who may not have even dated till they're 30 or something, because maybe they've really
Yeah.
focused on their career. So
Yeah, fair.
it's still first relationship.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, I totally forgot about that. There are people out there who are in their older, and not to give you guys shit or say that that's
They just had different priorities.
yeah, different priorities in life. But yeah, that's your first experience. So that everything is fresh, everything is excited and enhanced, and it's something that you really want to do. You really want to give it all.
Yeah.
So I guess from that point of view, I get it, because that's your first time. Just give it a crack. Give it a solid try. But for repeat offenders, it's like, well, okay, it's about understanding the person. If you know that that person is the same, I guess for me, like for an example, I have one friend who is pretty much a repeat offender. Every time this person gets into a relationship, basically it's 150% with the female, like with the partner, and then the guys, like the friendships kind of like disappear, or he goes MIA.
But is he a good friend, or is he like a best friend? Or
He's a fucking good friend. He's one of my brothers too. And to me, like at first when I was trying to get to understand his character, I used to get upset about it. I was like, what the fuck you doing, bruv? Like, why are you always disappearing? And like, and it wasn't just me that was questioning that. That was me having the conversations with my group of friends. And we always used to be like, this guy is a fucking bitch. Or like,
a flake.
not just a flake, but we used to call him a pussy, because he used to get pussy whipped, is what we used to say. Because the girl would always control him, you know, and anything that she wanted, he would basically go, okay. And we used to give him a bit of shit like that. And that's our banter. That's just our nature of our friendship. We like to give each other shit, etc., etc. But, you know, over some time, as I matured and as our group matured, we basically realized, you know, that's just who he is.
Yeah, but rather than just being like, that's just who he is, what made you become more lenient and still keeping him as a good friend? Because you said, like, sometimes you might get offended and you kind of don't bother with that friendship anymore. But obviously, he's still a really good friend. So, what made you understand him better, or opened you up to be more lenient to still keep him around?
The difference now is the communication piece. So if there was anything that I would, I guess, disagree with or question, I'd just ask him. I'd just be upfront. Hey, man, what's going on? What's this?
Yeah, but what from him is giving you that opportunity to feel like, yeah, you can still talk to him and be open to him?
Like I said, there's the level of loyalty and respect still from him anyway. So that's why he's still a part of us.
So even though he's not really hanging out or around and stuff, he's still chatting, catching
Yeah,
up
he
with
still
you,
he still catches us randomly. We still
like
talk.
through text or something.
Yeah, like a group chat or something like that. We don't have to physically see each other. I think it's just the communication piece. That component is still a part of us still. Like all of us, we are always busy, so we never really see each other face to face. So keeping in touch still in our chats, that's still, like, to me, that's still
Better than nothing.
better than nothing, right?
Yeah, no, that's good. I think that's important.
Yeah, of course. And then is that the same thing for you though? Like, do you think there is a fine difference between a first and a repeat?
I think my thought process is quite similar to you. I think it's all behind the intent of the person. So originally, I think I would have said first relationship, I would have been like, that's okay. And then if it's a repeat offender, then I'm like, no, screw that person. I'm not going to talk to them anymore. But now I think, as I think more into it, it doesn't matter if they're a repeat or a first relationship. As long as their intent is still trying to keep in touch with you, still trying to be friends with you, even though same thing, they don't show up face to face, but they're still texting or like messaging or like sending you memes on Instagram because that's how people talk nowadays. That's their communication.
Interesting.
It's actually true. There's so many things about it. Like as long as they're still keeping in touch in some way, especially now, we're all busy. I can say that I'm always busy. I don't even see my friends all that often. And you don't see your friends that often. As long as that intent there is still to keep in touch, I think that's all that matters. But if they're definitely repeat offenders in terms of picking up and disappearing and just say nothing, and then when they break up, then they come back, then that's another clear
Yeah.
intention that they are just picking and choosing and definitely not caring about their friends and putting their all into the relationship and then coming back, and that's not the right way to do it.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I think it's really sad to see people who do that, because it's like, dude, you can't. You got to have a balance between the two at some point, right? But it's sad for the friends who see your friends or a friend just disappear from the scenery.
You kind of start to question the friendship. You're like, okay, what are we to you? Are we just people that you just come back to when things don't work out?
Yeah.
Do you treasure us? Do you actually find us as good friends?
Do you respect us? in
Can
that
I
way?
lean
Yeah.
on you when I need you? Because what if you just picked up and left when you're halfway helping me out, then you just disappear? Like, you don't know what to think. So that's what I think. Like, the intent is more important of whether or not they repeat or not.
Yeah, that's true.
In saying that, though, what if someone actually did just disappear and they came back in your life a few years later? Would you try to reconnect?
Wait, so you're saying that, so it's a friendship, like a good friend just miraculously disappeared from the face of the bloody earth, and then several years later, they come back out, yo, what up, dude?
Like, hey, let's hang. What's been going on?
Look, I to be 100% honest, I'd be like, what the fuck is this shit?
Who the hell?
Who the fuck are you, bruh? I don't know you.
Yeah, that's
But
weird.
no, I think I'd be a bit. I mean, I wouldn't really.
Caught off guard.
Yeah, I'd definitely be caught off guard, because it's just kind of like, well, hang on, it's been several years since we last spoke.
Mm.
Like, I wouldn't just write the bastard off and be like, nah, stuff here, I'm not talking to you.
Just walk past them as
Yeah.
soon as they say
I'm like, stuff here, I'm not gonna fucking stand here and chin wag with ya.
What the hell is chingwag?
Chin wag is when you talk shit, like you're talking all the time.
Right.
It's an Aussie slang, but yeah, I'd still talk to them. I'd still be like, hey man, what's up?
Yeah.
But I would 100% be like, where the fuck you been?
Yeah.
And I think that's my character now. Is I would definitely ask them that, and I wouldn't be afraid to say anything like that. Whereas back then, I kind of would just leave it and be like, oh hey, yeah, try and talk to them. But then I'll be a bit closed off from it. Would you do the same thing? Would you be a bit like, what the fuck?
I'd be definitely caught off guard, but I'm same thing as that. What I was saying earlier on. I let nature take its course. If they come back, and I can see good intentions in it, then yeah, I'd still be curious about, hey, what's been happening? You know, are you still with that person? What have you been doing? Like, I'm always curious and I want to get to know them because they were a friend one point in time. Like, I'm talking about good friends. So you still want to know what's been happening because when that relationship disappeared, like you were still good friends and you still cared about them. So when they come back, I still want to care about them. But obviously, if their intentions were not good and it was for what I was saying before, where they're just coming back because they've lost their relationship now, I'm like, okay, but I don't know. Like, I just weigh out my options and see how they are as a character rather than what they've done.
And I'd say I'd second that because not just on relationship specific, like, you know, some friends might just had a bad experience and they've just wanted to reset
Yeah.
and come back and start fresh. And I've seen many friends do that, and I can understand. That's why now I'm more like, yeah, hey man, how are you? Like trying to get to figure out what the hell happened. I'm more open to that conversation.
Yeah. And like digging deep into the intent wise, like say this friend came back and just be like, hey, yo, what's been happening? You want to hang out? And then like no context or anything. Like, and they just go off as if nothing's happened, then
Yeah,
I'd be
that's a bit strange.
questioning that.
Yeah.
But they're like, hey, let's hang out. I'm so sorry I disappeared the last few years. I'm really keen to get to see what you've been up to, and I really do apologize for disappearing. Then you can see the characters that they genuinely do feel bad for what's been happening. Like, I'm not saying that they did anything bad or not, but like at least they have that intent to reconnect.
Yeah, that's true. And looking back, it's just kind of the same thing with me. Like, there are a few people that I've lost connection with, or I just haven't spoken to in like 10 years. And me reaching out to them, just like, hey man, how you been? Let's catch up for a coffee. It's been a while. I want to see how you're going. And that's just genuinely trying to get, you know, catch up with them.
This is just you losing contact, right?
This is just
Not
me
you
losing
disappearing.
contact. Yeah, not me like doing me fucking
Doing the
disappearing
dirty.
or doing anything like that. It's just like just showing the intent side of things.
Yeah.
Like me actually trying to genuinely catch up with someone.
But in saying that, though, has that actually happened to you? Like any friends that you've lost in the past due to a relationship, and has any of them come back to you?
No. I look, different people have different characteristics. So yes, I have lost a few friends due to relationships, and because of the time frame, it's just been so long that
They've also moved
never-
on.
they've also moved on. They've done their own journey. They've got their own pathway. So them themselves have probably changed in terms of their personality and stuff like that. So who knows the reasoning as to why they didn't ever reach out? It's just life, and I'm not really like hating them for that.
Yeah.
If I were to think back then, yeah, probably I would have been a little bit fucking, you know, just a little
Salty.
bit fucking salty about it. Yeah, a little bit salty.
Salt Bay.
Yeah, a little bit salty about that shit. But you know, now it's just like, well, you know, you do you did your journey, you did your life. You know, you probably change, and a lot of people do change.
Yeah.
It's just like,
but you're supposed to. Like heaps of people change. That means that you've grown. Like whether it's like for the better or for the worse. Hopefully for the better. But people change.
of course, and it's just like, for an example, when we caught up with Al. Like that was 15 years or something since I last spoke. Actually, no, sorry, 10 years or something since I last spoke to him. And he's changed so much. And I'm sure he could say the same thing for me.
And speaking of Al, if you haven't checked out his episode, we did one with him talking about bullying, like the experiences between you and Al and bullying in school. And we also did one about martial arts and burnout, which are really inspirational talks because he has such a very intellectual mind. So yeah, make sure you check that out.
Yeah, have a listen. It's a good chat from him.
But yeah, reconnecting with Al.
Yeah, reconnecting with Al, it just makes you realize how people have gone through their own journey and how they've grown, how they've matured. It's awesome to see. Whether it was his, you know, choice of going down that pathway, or us just losing that friendship connection just because of life or whatever it is.
Sometimes I feel like it's a good thing that people phase out, because sometimes if you're still going to stay in that relationship but you don't really have much in common as you kind of grow in that point in time, then you don't really have much to talk about. So if you kind of phase out, you do your own thing, then you reconnect. You've got so much to reconnect about. You're like, oh, hey, like, what's been happening? Like, I've been doing this, and you're like, oh, that's so cool. Didn't realize you'd be into that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you just got so much to learn about this person that you knew before.
Yeah, and like you said, friendships are it's seasonal. Sometimes you phase in,
Yeah.
phase out, etc.
Yeah, and then one of my friends actually showed me this graph, which was actually really interesting. So
Just pull it out of
yeah,
fucking.
here's what I prepared earlier. So it's actually a graph and a study that was from America, but I think it could still apply to Australia.
It's pretty interesting.
And it's like who people spend their time with by age. So it's a graph, shows all the ages and all the people that you hang out with. So it's categorized within coworkers, friends, children, family, your partner, and also alone. So naturally, from the age of like 15, which is like the earliest on this graph, to about 25, you have quite an even spread between all of those categories. But from 25 onwards, it kind of starts to split between family, partner, and alone, which I feel like it's quite like it is evident with us now. So
It's quite accurate.
yeah, when we're 15 and then onwards, graduate high school, I did a lot of partying, like clubbing, all that kind of stuff, always out to hang out. And then, as we started to build our relationship more, we just hang out with each other more and also with family and also alone. So once you reach about 30, 35 onwards, you're really spending time with your partner or you're alone most of the time.
Yeah.
So I found that really interesting because I didn't know if it was just me because I really love spending time alone. And to see that this is actually common, is actually really interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting because I had a look at the graph as well, and there's just a natural progression of life as well. Like you can see the earlier stages of life, like your early 20s to your mid 20s, it's party time, and you can see just the reflection in this graph, and we'll share that link to you guys. But you can see that friendships is across the board of everything. Work, you're meeting a whole bunch of different people. You're always out meeting people, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And then as you get older, you've built a relationship with someone special, and then that's your sole focus is the relationship.
But you've also tried everything or tried most of the things, so you kind of know what you want now rather than just going here and there and everywhere. And plus, you got responsibilities from work and also partner, family.
Yeah.
If you have a family, all that kind of stuff. Self-care as well because, stress from work,
Yeah.
things like that. So it just naturally starts to refine itself over in due course. So I thought that was a really good graph that she showed me, and she has also been on a podcast, Shelley Toe. So shout out to her. One last question I think I want to ask is, do you think, I really love to pick apart these kind of questions, do you think there's a fine line between someone who's just actually really loyal and caring to their relationship, as in they want to give their 150% to show that the other person, that they really care about them, as opposed to someone who is now just forgetting about your friendship?
Yeah, so there's a fine line with, okay, you've got a relationship, you're caring about your relationship, so you're spending most of your time building that, refining that, etc., etc. But then there's also the balance of, hey, you've got friendships out there. Let's just say really close friends to your best friends. You still got to keep those guys there too.
So if you're trying to figure out if your friend is just being very loyal to their new relationship as opposed to someone who's just now doesn't really care about you, how do you figure out which way they're leaning for you? Like, where's your little judgment pieces to see if they're true to you and your friendship and also their relationship?
I think the judgment component for me is knowing or seeing if that particular person still reaches out to you or still talks to you. I think if they're so focused on their relationship and doing what they need to do, but have that component of reaching out just randomly, talking to, hey man, what's going on? Or sharing something with you, but oh, check this out, this is what I saw.
Yeah.
Or you know what I mean? Just
so pretty much what we touched on before.
Exactly what we touched on before, which is basically those small little things where you're still sort of talking to each other. You may not be seeing each other physically, it's still the communication piece. Like, for an example, I've got a group chat with my mates. Even though, we don't even see each other, Like, for an example, we had a gathering last night with one of my close, almost brothers, pretty much like brother to brother. I call him
I
my
think
cousin
last
sometimes.
time we saw them was our wedding.
I think so.
Yeah, many months ago.
Yeah.
So,
So
it's been a
like
while.
that as an example, it's been so long, like physically seeing that person, but I talk to him pretty much almost every day
Mm,
through the chat sometimes.
yeah. No, I just wanted to ask that because it's like it sounds very similar, but it does feel like there's a fine line between someone who's actually trying to put their all into the relationship and show that the other person that they really care for them, as opposed to someone who has just disappeared. I feel like there is a fine line, so I wanted to see your take on it.
So then what's your fine line?
No, I agree, and it just falls back onto the intent. So it goes back to there's this other study. I think it was Mel Robbins or someone, and there's actually a lot of love you can give. It's not just to one person. Like you don't always have to show it to just one person. You can give it to a lot of different people as well. So if you're only focusing on one relationship, then it kind of like I'm not saying that they're a bad person, but it can kind of show their character, and that's all they care about, and they're not capable in terms of caring about you or wondering what you're doing, all that kind of stuff. But it's also knowing that you are capable of sharing love across many different people and all these other things. And again, it's just using that example. Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah. Friendships always comes to the center point of the discussion and always about like how we lose friendships to how do we rekindle that or how do we reconnect. And I find it really interesting because like you said, it's a cycle and it can be a seasonal thing too when it comes to friendships.
Yeah. Well, actually, I think one last thing to also I want to mention is if your friend that has picked up and left for a relationship, that's an external factor. If they don't want to reach out to you, you can't control that. As much as you really want them to still be your best friend, you can't control that. So sometimes it's like you just have to let it go.
Yeah. And look, it can also be other things that can affect them, not just relationships that have changed everything. So,
Okay, I'm gonna flip this question though. So, do you feel like you've ever been that friend that has disappeared due to you being in a relationship?
I'm sure there probably has been. Like I don't know. I'm sure there has been friends who have felt that I've potentially changed because of my relationship and could have been in a way. And look, everyone perceives and receives things differently. So actions, my personality, maybe me not spending time with them as much, those actions may have implicated that I'm no longer a particular person to them, or maybe I'm not spending that much time with them. Potentially, I don't know.
But I mean, like you personally, do you feel like you've ever picked up and left and disappeared
I have.
with any of your relationships?
I definitely feel like I have done something before in the past, but not because of a relationship. I think it was because of just the journey of my life. And that's something that's happened with, like, for example, Al, who we had on our episode. There was one point where we basically just stopped talking. Like, we were actually really, really close friends at one point in life. And I feel that I basically just disappeared. And look, to be fair, a lot was happening with me at the time. I was, family, a lot of shit was going on. I was taking on a lot more responsibility. I was just trying to deal with my life, just trying to get shit on track. And sometimes when you're trying to get shit on track, you just lose sight of the people around you. Yeah, and the only other thing I could probably think of is one relationship where this person that I was dating was, I guess, insecure with the people and I guess, yeah, the size of my group and the exposure to the girls that we had in the group as well. Not saying that I was dirty or being a slut, just FYI.
Slut.
But yeah, that point in that relationship, I basically stopped. Not really stopped, but I slowed down significantly in hanging out. And all I really did was to play games because in that relationship, that particular person wasn't confident.
Like didn't like you going out.
Didn't like me going out as
preferred you
much.
staying home or something.
Yeah. So in order for me to try to
Accommodate.
accommodate, that was what I attempted.
Yeah, I think that as well, understanding that and seeing how people can get into that situation. That's a hard part. And that's why now I'm saying it comes back to the intent or whatever, because you don't know what's happening in their relationship. Someone could be very insecure and be like, hey, I don't want you following girls like on Instagram, or hey, I don't want you hanging out like too much. I want you to spend more time with me. Like that's a whole conversation itself.
Yeah.
But you don't know what's happening inside that relationship, and that could happen. But you know, like you could still be messaging your friends and be like catching up and talking in the group chat. So there, your intent there is still you want to hang out with your friends, but you just can't at
You
the
can't,
moment.
yeah.
So yeah, that's why like for me, I won't like from the get go and be like, nah, this guy's just, you know, ditched us. Like I wouldn't think that way. I want to know some answers before I make my judgment.
Yeah. So then for you, have you ever been in a situation where you think that you've done that to your friends? You've
Well,
disappeared?
to be honest, I actually think I have, but in a way, I don't think I disappeared. I was still messaging friends. Like, I'm not good at messaging back at people. I'm just going to be honest with that. But I still reply when I can. And to be honest, I think I did that to my friends when I first started dating you. And it wasn't that I picked up and left and disappeared, but to some extent, I did want to spend more time with you because to me, at that point in time, I saw a lot of value in you. And it was less of me in that honeymoon phase. Obviously, there's a bit of that honeymoon phase, but I definitely wanted to just try and get to know you and try to like, and I was also hanging out with your friends. So it wasn't like we were just going out and going on our dates alone. I was also trying to get to know your friends as well and hang out with them. So a bit of that priority did shift over there. So I think I did neglect my own friends a little bit, but I still tried my best to hang out once in a while, or I still did reply to messages
Yeah.
in my own ways.
In your own way.
My message replies is like once a month. So
Yeah,
Anyway.
fair. I can understand where you're coming from because your priority is slightly shifted. Not that you're not hanging out with your friends or anything like that. It was just that was your primary focus at that time, right? And I think if I recall, yeah, I do remember that a little bit. But I also feel that it changed as well. Like at one point, we started hanging out with your friends a lot
because
more.
at some point in time I was like, hey, to you, I was like, I feel like I've been hanging out with your friends a lot. Like, what about we try with you hanging out with my friends as well,
Yeah.
just to see what that's like, just so that there's a bit of a balance there. But also with context, to me, I take relationships really seriously. So that's why I want to know if this is actually a right decision. So I want to get you to know you, your friends, and all that kind of stuff. And that's also why.
Yeah. No, that's totally understandable.
Yeah. Good conversation.
Yeah, so I think friendships always comes up when it comes to my group of friends and the people that I meet along my journey of life. And it's interesting because it's always about, losing friendships to gaining new friendships and the intent of your friends behind that. But I think it's really important that we still had this discussion because I don't feel many people talk about it where we share this conversation.
No, I feel like it's been talked about a lot, but like obviously you don't want to lose a friend to a relationship, so hopefully that doesn't happen. But once again, if you have lost a friend, like a best friend, I'm saying, to a relationship, you've tried to reach out, you talk to them, and they're really not reciprocating, their intent's not there to reconnect or stay in touch with you, then as sad as it is, you just gotta let it be. You just gotta let it go and move on with life. Like if they do come back at a certain point in time and you can see that they genuinely want to reconnect, then that's cool. Like there's another new timeline that has started.
It's a new season, season
Yeah.
5.
Season 5.
Yeah, and look at friends going away and coming back. That's their experience. That's their life, their journey that they've got to go through. And I think it comes down to you as a person to make that judgment too, make that call.
How I see it is, as long as you've tried your all, this applies to everything. Doesn't matter what it is, friendships, work, career, whatever it is. as long as you've tried your best, you've done what you could, that's the best you could really do. You can't beat yourself up for it. You can't beat your friend up for it. Like, that's just what it is. You've done what you need to do, and life just moves on.
Yeah.
And with that being said, if you have lost a friend to a relationship, let us know in the comments and let us know your thoughts on this topic too, because we'd really like to know. And that's it for today.
Peace.
Goodbye.